It's all you, babe.
No.
Come on, you got this. You're the best host. Come on.
I can't talk.
Couches make me look fatter than I am.
Oh, stop.
And I'm pretty fat, so it doesn't help much either.
There you go.
Hi, everyone. This is my wife. As you know, it's Mrs. Grizz. How is everybody today? Sorry we're so late. Though we were technically only 10 minutes later than we said we'd be, we're still late. Welcome to the Grizzly stream.
Well, technically, the original post you said around 9:30. Around. 20 minutes around.
Oh, you scared the one FBI agent who came by. He's like, oh, I can't handle this anymore. Around, near.
Far. Near.
Anyway.
Far.
Where? I never did get through that movie.
That's why I can never.
Just.
I don't think I've seen it. I've never seen it. I don't care to.
They die.
Well, yeah, of course they die.
One doesn't.
Pushed everybody off.
Yes, naturally. Right into the sea. Oh, here's a spoiler. The boat sinks.
No, really?
Yeah. Crazy.
Was it a land whale?
Oddly enough, the right balance of land whale would help because fat floats, muscle sinks. However, you have to factor in a lack of muscle means a lack of swimming potential, but more floating.
So you're a buoy in the water?
Yes. Fun fact, part of that is because there's more gases in fat people.
I wonder what you're for.
Yes. My wife just called me fat and fartacious. Which I think is more of an insult to her since she married me.
I married you before you were fat. Before you
Stuck
got
with
fat
me.
again. That's true, I did. Must be something else I like.
Babies. Definitely babies. All right. So, this is, we had a really fun stream last time. I don't expect the same amount of numbers or attention. We're not talking about Star Citizen drama or anything. I am in the mood to talk about books. But I'm making it video game related. What? Why? Just why? I really need to start streaming on Fridays properly again. I'm sorry that we've been all over the place with the darn scheduling. I even went to my office early at work. It's not that far away. To get away from the noises at the house to get some work done. And then, because it's the weekend, janitors were there. And they were very loud with their vacuums. Nice people. But went all the way to work on a weekend to get some time to myself to work on all their stuff. Just to get away from noise and
there
children.
was noise.
And there was noise, and ironically children, because they brought their kids to work. Nice people, love them. Glad they were doing it. Don't want a dirty place, but holy heck, that was unfortunate for me. Anyway, so today is kind of a fun random subject that I did not just throw together a few minutes ago. Because babies needed me, and life needed me, and wife needed me. But we're going to stream nonetheless, and it's going to be fun. Hopefully some people will show up to insult me, and I'll insult them back.
The Sigma?
What? Work at a school. All the kids say, what the Sigma? It's very entertaining.
You gotta say when a Sigma, an actual Sigma, does something that is what a Sigma would have done. And it makes sense to say, what the Sigma?
Yeah, kids don't do that.
No, they don't.
They just find it entertaining. So.
It's like the new version of what the hell?
As a proper Sigma, I'm going to do something that I want to do. But if you guys don't want to watch it, don't leave. And let's talk about how books, men have been driven out of the literature space and took refuge in video games. And that's created a very unique situation where video games actually saved the male reading market, if you will. The book, men-orientated books. It's very strange. It's very random. I recommend going up.
See your cousins.
Oh, I don't know why it's not on my list. I recommend going to the Fandom Pulse if you haven't. I should leave a link, but I'm tired and no one's here anyway. Fandom Pulse, John De La Rose actually brings up some very interesting research where he finds that on so I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but on Amazon there are male-centric book markets that just don't want to come out of my mouth for some reason. Why? It's like apocryphal text. There's just a book coming out of my mouth and smacking people around. Yes. Is the sword coming out of Jesus' mouth probably metaphorical? Maybe. But then maybe it's not. Wait, what?
Male-centric. I can't even say it.
Men-orientated books. Books made for men, wife.
I thought you said male-centric.
Dick books. Books for the dick. If I have... Is this the only way? I should have put that in the title. I might have gotten some more attention. Title was probably too wordy. But
this is why I don't even try and say dicks on stream. It'll come out properly.
Just say dicks. You'll get everyone's attention. No, oddly enough, YouTube's comment section, I don't know how people are still rude to me, but I tried to be rude to someone. I know it happened. I tried to be rude to someone in a very entertaining way, and I was instantly censored. Like, it wouldn't sit. Like, I would send it, and it would instantly delete it. Like, the algorithm was watching me, and it's only ever censored me once when I'm making a stream, though, which I find kind of funny. Yeah, and I've seen some pretty crazy things. The 230, 240 streams and videos and nonsense I've put up. Some pretty crazy things. And they've only censored me once, but man, those comments were bam, bam, bam.
You know I wasn't from the original person.
No. Not unless they were sitting at the computer just waiting for me. Bam! I'm not that conceited. That they're just sitting there waiting. I think. Oh, maybe they did. In which case, they got really thin skin, and that's funny. But it could be a moderator, I suppose. But it was like in such a way that I was confused. Like, I wasn't sure if it actually, like, it didn't tell me it deleted the comment. The comment just never went up. Like, I pressed the button, it went up on the screen. I did something else. I looked back, and it wasn't there. And it did that twice. So I'm like,
and you can't blame the internet because the internet
was working that fine. Our internet sucks, but it was working fine at that moment. I don't know. Anyway, the other time I got censored when I was pointing out, it was in 2016, I was pointing out that we're not being just watched by, should I say it? I'll get censored again. Just watched by, like, electronical surveillance, like, your phone, listening to you, computers and all that. I pointed out that this is the one time I ever got censored. I pointed out that we're also being watched by boots on the ground, people who are working for one agency or for, like, double blind group, whatever, watching specific people, just fishing for information, censored on, like, they deleted videos.
Yeah, you don't need it.
And you bring it up again. Weird things happen.
Yeah, we're back.
How about that? See, the reason why I laugh about that is it just shows to me just how much true it was. Because the fact that there's, like, some sort of algorithm following me. Chat works now. Thank you, wife. You're going to say something stupid now? Yeah. Following me and literally like some computer algorithm just waiting for me to bring it up again so it can disrupt stuff. It just blows my mind. That one, though, is just technology, right? That's just the typical surveillance everyone knows about now. Phones, YouTube, all of it. I mean, come on, you can't get away from that. Well, you can, right? You can go in the middle of nowhere. But as we find out, they'll follow. As I got censored about, right? Even if you do that, even if you cut yourself off from technology, they will still follow you and watch you. Star, for example, had guys flying drones over his house and were very fishy when he chased them down about it. Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. Again, the only video I ever got deleted, never got a strike on my channel for was that one during the 2016 elections. That's hilarious. So now that I've shown I'm a bona fide wild man, let's continue.
2016 elections?
No, you're right.
Because you weren't doing any of this when we were. That was
when I was researching. You're right. Shoot, what was going on? Because we voted for Trump.
2016 was Trump against Hillary.
Right, he won that. Oh, okay, so it was like a few years in then. Or 2017, 2018.
Was it while we were...
It was because I didn't start till we were married.
Yeah. And we got married in
17.
No.
18. It was at least 18.
18.
Yeah, so it was probably 2018. Yeah, that's funny. I remember there was some kind of elections going. No, it might have been the second election, so like 2020.
So
because
the whole Trump and Biden
because it was
thing,
when
that
the
one.
Biden won, right? Our kids and grandkids are gonna think we're complete morons. By the way, and the worst part is they're gonna not blame the boomers the way they should. Like, how are you supposed to tell them that you were just along for the ride on that one? Ride never ends.
Ride or die.
All right, but speaking of this, to be fair, this does get involved with our topic because conspiracy books were originally mostly a male-centric affair with certain genres directed towards females. Not saying females can't read or shouldn't read.
We just can't comprehend.
Though if you continue down this route of like destroying all literature, maybe you shouldn't read. Really?
What?
You just got all prim and proper on there. Why I said a stupid joke.
There.
Anyway, so basically, there was a concerted effort to drive men out of literature, make men not read as much. And the goal around that was both to dumb down culture, but also to take control of culture, right? You, with the one trickery.
Woman can't read unless it was her.
The trickery about it is if you get something to be dominated by women are very group-centric, right? There's not a lot of individuals.
They are the ones that started the book reading clubs.
Exactly. Men didn't need the book reading clubs. We just read what we like, right? And don't take this too much as an insult towards women. I'm married to one.
Understand a book.
Right? And so there was the goal behind getting women to take over, like not be a part of, but take over things like video games, like we've seen the DEI push and the push in the books way back when, in comic books, is they're more malleable to groupthink. They're easier to manipulate in the groupthink. That's not saying men aren't, but they're more willing to fight back against it. Women, because we can get into things like pair bonding, how hard it is to have children, and so we suspect a more natural instinct towards making sure the group stays together because they need the group to help raise the kids and all that, right? A man can more easily survive on his own out in the wild, for example, right? You get that lone wolf vibe, man. As my wife keeps saying, what the Sigma vibe, the Sigma guy out in the wild, So, not saying some women can't. Most women, not saying some women can't. Some women could.
That women can't.
There's some that could, but they're very much a minority. These days, men are a minority that can handle it as well, including me at this point. I feel like
it takes a woman who has been excluded
from the group.
There's a different term.
Expunged. Excommunicated.
Excommunicate, but it's a bigger word.
No, excommunicate is a bigger word, I'm pretty sure. I think you're you're thinking of expelled. Oh, now I had the word in my head, and then you sent it away from me. Not famine. What? What have you done? Somehow your brain rot is spread to me. Is this a zombie thing? No. Is it the end? Do I need to get my gun ready? Wait, that means I'm already infected.
No, stop. Excommunicated.
No, I think I think we were going. It's like a legal
shunned.
term.
You've been shunned, kind of like
shunned works, but it's like a legal term. Like you could be burned at the stake or killed, or they could send you out of the country and you're not allowed to come back with pain of death, which is a word I can't think of right now, and it's very fancy and nice, and I should probably move on because I can't think of it. If you can think of it, put it in the comments. I'm sure you can think of it. Not drafted. That's not it. But this is the purpose behind it, right? If they can get, it's easier to start with women, right? You know how they bring minorities and all that other minorities. You know, it's funny to call Black peoples and Latins and all that minorities when there's more of them in the world than white people. I'm just pointing it out. They're the ones that go like, "We're citizens of the world." Okay, well then that means
gosh, your sister said that.
Yeah, exactly.
Disgusting.
Then that means white people are actually the minority, and I think I deserve some special privilege. I feel very threatened by the excessive population around me and their ability to vote and groupthink, and thus I think I need special attention, like they do. Special rewards, special jobs, special money. Because, you know, I, as a white man, as a minority in the world, require more help to get along because I'm outnumbered. Anyway, well, this is much more spicy political. I feel hurt. I feel special. Hear me roar. No, This is a much more spicy stream than I thought it would be, to be honest. It's kind of fun. I'm enjoying it. But
need some of that Cajun.
Anyway, the point being, right? If you think back to like 1950s, 1940s, if they'd instantly tried to fill the market with a bunch of Black lesbian, wonderkin, gay fag, tranny, cut off the dick in a wheelchair weirdos, they right, you know, they would instantly be laughed at, or they'd be expunged. All the people would push them out and they'd ignore them. So what did they start with? They started with, "Hey, you like your wife, right? Yeah, you like her. You want her to read books? Let us make some books for her. Okay? Yeah. And the guy's like, yeah, I like her. Sure, whatever." Not knowing, and that's not saying we can't make any books for women. The point is, they started with that, and then they started going, well, hey, you know, you like military fiction. Why can't we make a book with military fiction geared towards women? And, you know, the logic-minded person who wasn't, like, insane would probably say because women don't like military science fiction? For the most part.
What's been happening around the plains here lately.
Yeah. So, you know, generally not their thing. And thus, when you make, you know what you get when you get that? You get, I actually did read these novels as a kid, which was hilarious.
What?
I forget their names, so I can't be properly embarrassed, but it was something about World War II. There was some Jew lady who, even though she was blonde hair, blue eyed, it was a love story in the middle of it, the Woodward. But I was like there for the World War II bits. The love story was interesting. It's funny.
Who are you?
A man who read a lot of books as a kid. Those are one of the ones I got a hold of. I don't know if there was one in my sister's book, or did I get them in the library? Look, my library was very limited, so I read what I could.
Did your sister even read that?
She probably wouldn't have been able to keep up with it.
She probably wouldn't understand it.
The point is, hilariously, it also scared that cat more for some reason away, which I find funny. Yeah, that our YouTube is doing its thing again. The point is, they would sneak it in that way, and a lot of men are unfortunately prone to this as well. There's a lot of Delta types, Gamma types especially, who have trouble dating women, and so if they like women in their spaces because they can't meet them outside of their spaces. Right? And, there's a certain aspect that men kind of enjoy having that one type of girl who can handle it. Like, okay, she's kind of fun. Shakes it up a little bit. But it's still not the same. Right? The space changes when you add a different gender into it. And don't take that as like the billion fake genders. We're talking like, you have an all-male locker room, you add a woman to that, even if she's kind of the boyish tomboy type, there's still some things that probably won't be said. It's just true. It's just what it is. And so, by taking over these arts, they started with women because it was much more... apparently I'm Italian all of a sudden. But, yeah. Because it was much more palatable. So, guys like women. Guys look like women around. And not all guys recognize that they need space where women aren't around all the time. So it's easy to start with, hey, you want to include the females in this? You want to... The equivalent of, hey, son, include your sister in this. Or, your sister has a friend that you may be interested in. Include her in your board game or whatever, right?
Oh, gosh.
We've all had those moments. Not me, because I was the youngest. But it's funny. As the youngest male, you don't have this moment where they're like, include your brother a little bit, but not much. You're never going to have a moment where your mom's like, hey, make sure your brother plays Barbies too. See the look? That would never happen.
Brother played Barbies.
Yeah, but he's
for
like,
attention.
Yeah, his mom was never gonna go over to you and say, make sure your brother can play Barbies. But you could see how like you're playing action figures in the backyard, and your mom comes and says, make sure your sister can play with you too.
And you're sharing, but
Wife, I forgot you're the youngest and you feel called out. It's okay. It's okay. Some of those Legos were yours. It's all right.
Don't even get me started on the Legos. Okay?
It's okay. You can live vicariously through your children now. Buy them lots of Legos. Do you need me to buy you some Legos?
Stop.
The point is, that pressure is rarely in reverse. There's rarely like this the thing of like, hey, you sewing group, why don't you have any men there? Some of this is very much just natural male tendencies, desperate males wanting female attention. And some of it is them taking advantage of it. And then the groups can push the more female-centric. Just look at sci-fi conventions now and how you have all these women with the blue hairs and all this, like, and it should always be about trannies and gays and lesbians. There should be always a me, she, he, woman thing. But why? Because women are very much locked into whatever the culture is. So if you want books to constantly back up what you're pushing in the culture that you're grabbing a hold of, you want women there because women are a lot less likely to go against the group. It's just the truth. And, that's nothing against women. If anything, it's actually kind of against men for not protecting their women better and recognize, having the balls of telling them, no, this isn't good for you, and no, you're not going to take over the book space. Here's your little space. Here's our space. Let's make it work out, right? Men let themselves get pushed out, and rather than fighting back, they just sort of left. And they did that in comics. They did that in movies in a lot of ways. The only spot men have really fought back in is in video games. Oddly enough, they let all their 80s action flicks go crap.
What was that thing that you showed me the other day? The short about a game that someone made, and they got like take a selfie of themselves or something, and then they had the Google Block.
The video game. Oh god, yeah, it's the latest indie game I'm supposed to rock my socks off, and it's literally, it's a joke on one hand, joking about how...
But is it though?
Joking about how ridiculous the crappy like gotcha things are and all this other stuff you have to do to prove you're human and all that. It was such a female oriented game design. It hurt. It's like, oh hey, this is in real life. You like real life stuff. That like, no, I'm playing a video game to get away from it. Stop it. Also, they might have paused it in such a way to make it look like the woman in front driving the motorcycle was not in a very seemly position, which was definitely not an accident, by the way. Artists do that kind of thing all the time. Don't. It also lasted more than one frame, which tells you it wasn't an accident. It's like, hey, it was like that. Like, get your cell phone on for like 3 or 4. And if you pause at any one of those, it looks very wrong. Yes. And that's one thing we're getting into a little bit too, is how women, when they try to get into the video game space, instantly fail because they want to write a novel and they don't want a game. Like, it's not to say that like women's video games, oddly enough, have like no storylines to them. They're usually just, the Candy Crush style stuff, right? Endless repetition.
I am scared to think of any RPG attempts that a woman have tried to make, and it just turns out to be complete.
But they ever try to make a video game with like an actual game? Not saying Candy Crush and that stuff isn't technically a game, but you get one point. More than just the endless repetition of arcadey type stuff. When they try to make anything like that, they think they're writing a novel, basically, and they want it to be a novel, and all the gameplay suffers because they don't understand what makes it fun. They're trying to make art, guys. We're serious people, too. Though I find most people making serious art, unless they're in a certain point in their career, generally don't view themselves as making serious art. They're just making stuff. I don't know if that makes sense to most people, but generally, I find that when I really look into the lives of some famous artists and whatnot, they're just making it. It's not something like they're sitting down and go, "Ooh, I make a masterpiece today that all of the world will bow down at my brilliance." No, they're just painting. They're just painting stuff, and it just turns out to be pretty darn good, and they want to make it as good as they can make it. It's the same thing with video games, really. The best stuff is stuff that's not trying to be pretentious. Yeah. See, this is why you'll get video games that are just like point and click walking simulators with some blue-haired chick dealing with her lesbian feelings. Why there's like a zombie apocalypse in the background to make them feel like they're still making a video game. It's like that book I was talking about. Like, hey, it's a World War II setting. Let's concentrate on this one chick's love story with a reporter. And they never go to the battle at all. But the World War II stuff's happening in the background. Gets behind it. So, getting back to the point. Probably losing everybody. That's okay. You're right. You have to worry about it on some level.
I know, but
yeah,
don't make it.
Today I don't care. So they start with women, because then when all the men are outside of it or are not in control and all the weak men are there, and the kind of man who's trying desperately to get female attention by bringing them into his space, is like his book space, his video game space, his board game space. Like, hey, if I can get this video game chick in the same, the sneaky fuckers, as the scientific term is. And I'm not actually exaggerating. That is what the term is, sneaky fuckers. It goes to a fish that pretends to be, that the weak males pretend to be females to get past the strong dominant males so that they can get at the female fish behind that one. Mate and then run. The sneaky fucker strategy. It is a legit thing, and they called it that. I actually enjoy the scientists who called it that. It's straight and to the point. Till the F word is no longer a bad word, which will probably happen in the next couple 100 years.
You live in Asia, and this means a vegetable.
Yeah, they can hunt. Like, there's a ton of words, not like funny. there's still a family member of mine owns a radio station, and he gets bothered by old people who think the word suck is as bad as the F word. It's about as bad as fuck.
That's what my mom thought.
Yeah. It's not that. You're right. Suck is now just a whatever word, right? And you say, oh, well, it's not that. Unless you think about what's being sucked. Suck it. God, those people must have hated psych.
My mom used to get on my face for saying that.
Oh, but that's just
But
hilarious.
she liked psych, so I don't get it.
Things change with age. Yep. Yeah. But the point, the point is, right, when you have the weaker males in charge of things, they have trouble saying no to anyone, especially women. So when you have all these females turning it into a community, not a publishing group, not a serious thing, they're much more likely to make decisions that aren't about money. You get people in there that are making things for ideological decisions, for groupthink decisions, and then you put your thumb on the scale of what those group decisions are, you can get rid of stuff that you don't like. Like if you're trying to stop men from being strong and masculine and willing to do things like, I don't know, kill bad dictators or bad oligarchs or people who kidnap and murder children. Epstein Island, Epstein committed suicide. What? Epstein didn't commit suicide? What did I say? What did you say? I don't know.
Chicken butt.
The point is, if you want the culture to be weak, you got to take control of the arts. To take control of the arts, you need to feminize them first so that all the people who would stop you from taking control of the arts aren't there to stop you. And then you can sneak more and more people who your mindset through it all. And some of this was straight up certain cultic and societal and CIA type stuff. Some of this was spiritual, demonic activity, that kind of stuff. The point is, it was a slow march turning it into, and some of it's just human behavior too. You get someone who thinks a certain way, they like to hire people and have people work around them who think the same way. Women in particular want everyone to be in lockstep on their political views around them.
They can't handle not, then you get booted out.
Right? So if you have a 70 to 90% female workforce, they want everyone to think the same. And they take it as a personal threat when you don't. So you're either going to get kicked out or the organization's going to change. Either she goes or you go is kind of the thing. And if everyone's backing her up, you're gone. See, so there's also that natural tendency that pushes things. Doesn't all have to be a conspiracy. They can kickstart things and then they go on their natural way. So I don't want you to think I'm like a Hail Hydra. They have their fingers everywhere. No, you'll be surprised. So. This concerted effort to push men out of books, and in comic books and movies, where did all the reading men go? Because all the publishers are very obsessed with the fact that men don't read, which is just a straight up lie. Men have read for ages and have made books for ages. There's far more male big time classic writers than there are female ones. And you're going to say, oh, it's just because the men never let the women learn to read and write. Patently false. Going all the way back to to the big man in English literature himself. Guy who made all the plays. Help me.
William Shakespeare.
That one, teaching his daughters to write and read. Well-known fact. That's going all the way back to when English was just creating literature to start with. And yeah, and then you have Jane Austen and all these splatterings. It wasn't because it was like, see, my wife has a very male-centric view of books. It's quite entertaining. We get along well. So, but, for all the Jane Austens out there, you have the Three Musketeers. You have J.R. Tolkien. You have all these other, like 10 for every one female who makes serious books that people, at the time, could be genre, but something that sticks for the ages. If that makes sense. that people think is important enough that they keep remaking it and keep it around.
I'm sitting here and can't remember all the Jane Austen books. And I really don't care. And they all sound the same at the end. What's the difference? The title. And I can't even think of it right now.
So
Did you read Pride and Prejudice?
I did. Actually, I enjoyed Pride and Prejudice.
Wait, that's one I know.
I
But
understood.
any other one of them, I don't.
I instantly understood what Mr. Darcy was going for when everyone thought he was being really mean and annoying. He just wanted to be left alone. I really understand Mr. Darcy. As a kid, I really understood him. Like, I remember reading it, everyone was like, "Oh, he's such a prideful asshole," and I'm like, he just doesn't want to talk to you. What's your problem?
It's the only Jane Austen book I know that I could enjoy.
Anyway. Such a weird stream this time, but I'm entertained. So
We had too much sun.
you had too much fun
You were out there when I went to the post office.
for a little while. So, what triggered this whole 40-minute tirade into randomness was a Fandom Pulse article that looked at Amazon, because the male readers still exist. They didn't go away, and they kept reading even as generations went down. Like, they want to make it seem like Gen Z doesn't read at all, or Gen X, and what are we again? Millennials don't read, or whatever. The males don't read, or only certain weird ones will read historical stuff. But it's patently false, because just as more even readers are on Amazon, and the majority of them are in these sections are male, where men are slightly more likely to buy their books online. We would be just as likely to buy books in bookstores if they sold our books. Who would have thought?
But they don't.
But they don't. And again, it's because certain powers that be started that process, and now they're in control, and they don't want men back in.
And the other bookstores like Barnes and Nobles are slowly getting out of business.
Yeah. Some part of me sad. I have good memories of bookstores like that when I was young, but we'll replace them with something better. It's this funny thing about it too is, like, the low end people who don't know anything about the conspiracy stuff and whatnot, right there, they still do it lockstep because they're like so ingrained into the brainwashing, and they're usually female or weak male, that it's part of who they are, and they think it's evil to make money. So anyone pointing out that they make more money by adding more male-orientated literature to tap into a market that's largely ignored by the big publishing, they just slap aside. It's not about that. It's not about making money. And that's how you know you're dealing with ideology and feminized stuff, is it's not about that. It's not about that. It's about being moral, superior. It's about the greater good.
Like, even the book covers aren't that interesting.
Yeah. So, the Fandom Pulse article / video was what got my attention on this, and it was pointing out the fact that there's plenty of men reading on Amazon, and they concentrate in a number of different areas, but the three most read ones are military science fiction, to nobody's great surprise. I don't think I even have a bunch of that. The next one, which is a little more surprising, is what's called RPG literature. Do you know what that is, wife?
Does it have to do with RPG elements to a game?
Yeah,
but you read about it and the layout.
It's basically
create one.
It's basically Sword Art Online, but novel form would be the best way to describe it.
Okay.
Not always a death game, obviously. Sometimes it's just a dude playing a video game. I'm not personally. The stakes aren't high enough. Like, I like the ones. We ignore the cousin stuff in the later season.
Yeah.
But
I didn't watch the last season because of that.
First season was the bomb. But it's also one of the that's also what was great about the first season, was it was a harem anime, but the guy actually picked one chick and got with her. How about that? They ruined it in the second season where he's with her, but there's still more chicks being added to the harem, and you're kind of like scratching your head like, What happened to the main chick, the main squeeze that he like married? I guess it wasn't a real marriage, brah. Get with the times. Right. But some of these are literally it's just a video game. There's other ones like
And
my.
what's the third? Oh, sorry.
What? You can say it, then I'll say mine.
You're still going on about the RPG stuff. Because you're naming about the different types.
Oh, you were
Science,
wondering what the third
military,
one?
And, yeah.
Oh, well, let me go off on this and then
Okay.
I'll do that. So, military science fiction, we all know what that is. Though sometimes a lot of elements don't have sci-fi anymore, which is kind of funny. Like there'll be, space lasers and stuff, but there's not like changing in technology and stuff like that. It's just like lasers and now military stuff. Look at no, you didn't. That's technically sci-fantasy.
I know it gets you all the time. Even that's why I hid my mouth and my face when I said it, because I knew.
My wife is cruel to me. That's okay. We'll
I
continue.
knew you were.
Every time. Every time. Of course, now The Mandalorian's kind of destroyed itself as a show, so I guess it's not surprising that they didn't understand how a gun works. If you must know, watch the first season, second season. The one where Luke Skywalker's kind of poorly digitally put into the season. No, they've had later seasons. That's why I'm confused. The one where there's a spaceship scene and Skywalker's like killing everything. There's a scene when they're taking the spaceship before Skywalker shows up, where the chick who was a wrestler at some point or an MMA fighter, who got a lot of political stuff, blah, 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 is firing her weapon. Her weapon stops. She looks up and says, "My gun's jammed," and starts smacking it against the wall. Only it's a laser / if they go with cannon, plasma rifle type thing, which means there's no moving parts to get jammed.
You just changed the battery, right?
Not necessarily.
No.
I think you would almost want to throw the gun away, because if it's like a superheating plasma gun,
ray,
which is kind of what blaster bolts are supposed to be, I would imagine it would probably explode. And hitting it might cause some problems, as it is a massive battery that is probably going to explode.
You know what happens when you put a lithium battery into water?
It explodes. Does it?
Something like that.
Yeah. Put it on an airplane, it's supposed to explode. If you don't know, guns have moving parts. That's what a jam is. Not a raspberry jam. I've been jammed. No, it's when a casing or a malfunction in the design,
Type 1 or Type 2?
Yeah, or Type 3, gets caught in the mechanism, making it unable to function or move. If there are no moving parts in your space gun, i.e., it's a gun that superheats air or shoots a laser, it cannot jam, as there are no moving parts.
I'm so sorry.
This has less to do with guns and more to do with physics.
Because people forgot to read about military sci-fi.
This is true.
There we go. Back to the
Back to what we were doing. Back to our previous stuff. So, I was going to say, my favorite, what I would, it's not quite the same, but it's close enough, RPG lit type, I would kind of throw it in this category, but not, is Soda Pop Soldier. Because I prefer these ones that it's more than just a video game. I do too. Like there's real world, and I think this is what makes this kind of literature work, is when there's a real world connection to why the video game needs to be played. Why don't you get one right there? Yeah, what are you doing? Causing problems. That's what you're doing.
Oh. Doing the most female thing.
Oh, you're so female. It's like I married a woman or something.
No, really?
Oh my god. Anyway. So, highly recommend it. Who is it? I also recommend that. Funny enough, It's not RPG lit, but
Dr. Pepper a Coke.
Dr. Pepper. Whoa. What's this? He makes this one's fun because it's basically just throwing modern soldiers into a D&D fantasy type setting. That's called the Ruin. The Ruin books.
Excuse me, pardon me.
Those are very entertaining. Oh, this is mine now. Okay, well, then get this. So, the third one, I don't really want to bring up because it's the most gamma thing I've ever heard in my life.
What is it? You got me curious.
The third and more profitable, unfortunately, are harem-inspired anime novel type things. Harem anime. You know, there's a dude and all the chicks like him, and he's usually a little clueless about it. Yeah. The ones that ruin a lot of cool anime concepts. And why is it gamma? Well, that's because though it's like this gamma fantasy thing. They want to be seen as the true alpha that has all the chicks around them. But because they can't be they think alphas are disgusting, horrible. Like they can't have a main character who's confident and like laughing at the fact that all these chicks like him. Then he has to be like freaking out, like, "Why do you all like me? What do you mean you like me?"
You remember that time when you got catcalled? You pulled your knife out. You did
they surprised me. I was in a bad neighborhood. So I pulled my knife, okay?
And there were black chicks. You did the black thing.
They didn't see my knife. That's what's important,
okay?
I
know, but it was pretty funny. Like, here you are getting catcalled by these ladies.
To be fair, okay.
Mostly, they're yakking.
They honk their horn from 5 feet away from me.
And
that's what freaked me out.
And then you pull your...
So I pulled my knife.
What the stigma?
What a strange thing. Oh, what a strange
But gammas, no, they can't even think about that.
No. So, that's annoying. The only harem anime that I've ever fully enjoyed and not just ignored it, like we brought up Sword Art Online, I enjoy the first season because he picks one chick and he sticks with her, and then I get annoyed at the later seasons when he's being weird. That's the gamma part that's like, oh, I want all the chicks, but I don't want to be, I want seeing is, like I stick with one chick, but I want all the chicks. There was only one other one I enjoyed, and that's because the character was confident and like was very comfortable. Basically, there was an alpha trend to him / bad boy trend where he was just accepting it and laughing. Now, to be fair, alpha literature often has a guy like James Bond screwing a lot of women over. The difference is in like the harem anime stuff is the chicks like stick around the whole time, and as it sounds, it turns into like a weird harem situation. Yeah. I blame the gamification of the man, the a lot of the males, for why that's so popular. But it is a video game thing connected as well. I mean, we could argue military science also attached to video games like Halo, Gears of War. What are you doing? Call of Duty. Duty your call. Watch your step in a Call of Duty, if I can use a Jew joke.
Stop. That's not a Jew joke. This is a poop joke.
I'm sorry. A Jew made that joke in an animated form. It still counts. And a Jew probably wrote it. What? It's not like an Armenian wrote it. I really want an Armenian to have actually written it now so I can eat my words. That would be hilarious. One joke in Hollywood written by an Armenian screenwriter.
I knew a lady who was from Armenia who was Armenian, and her name was Armenia.
I promise never to name any of our kids California.
Well, we already named our kids, so that's not an option. I'm not. Because your son pointed at my stomach the other day and
You pregnant? Baby?
stop.
Anyway.
No, I'm sad.
Why you gotta make me sad? It was funny till the dog
I know, but like...
dog kicked the table. Dog. So, basically, when all the men got driven out of these other places, they ran to video games. And it's funny, they finally kind of put their feet... If you ever heard of Gamergate and all this, they actually put their foot down and said no. And DEI is just the modern SJW in a different form. And unfortunately, though, though they're fighting back more, video gamers at their heart really can't defend video games. They're going to lose ground like conservatives lose ground as the time goes on. And that's a whole stream in and of itself. It basically comes down to the fact that they can't attack their real enemies. And part of it's because they'll say stupid things like with Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. It was like, it's a good game. It's not gay even though it has gay sex in it.
Gay minors.
Gay pedo stuff with that. That was changed only after they were called out for it. Anyway. So.
Sorry.
It's quite obvious to me by the genres that are most read by males, a very heavy video game, anime centric, which is all anime, video games, and so focused crowd. They even when they read books, they want to think about it in the video game tense. It's kind of funny. It's like a guy who likes football reading a book about football, novel about quarterback or something. I mean, it's kind of interesting. The military science again, right? You're just like the Halo novels back in the day. It's fascinating too because you can see how the right story can. It's interesting watching games. I've talked about this before because story in games is often not always needed, but it can often set the tone and the set of the gameplay. It can help clanky gameplay mechanics become palatable, which is funny. One could argue you don't need it, but it's a lot of times like background stuff that you don't even think about in the back of your brain in certain games, but it really feeds the game altogether. Take. I'm trying to think of something with. Like, we'll go with classic something Mario, shall we? You have the story of the lady kidnapped by the King Kong being fought by a little tiny jumping man. The story is simple and sweet, but it gives purpose to the arcadey device that's going on. You'll notice with female-orientated specific games, there's not really much story going on. Right? Candy Crush. Crush the candy. Why are you crushing that candy?
What did it
Numbers. Numbers, baby. That's all I got. But it's funny when you even have like an arcadey type situation in male games, there's usually something, even Mortal Kombat has all this crazy weird lore all the way around it. When you would think it's the kind of game that do they really need all this lore about some weird super nether sorcerer creating a fight between warriors from different dimensions or something? I forget. Like it changes every so, but you get the point. A lot of story there for some reason for a game about punching people and ripping out skulls. Not saying it was always a good story, but you get the point. Like it fed into the aesthetics around it and the feel of the game and the gameplay and why it acted the way it did. If that was a female, Street Fighter, all the fighting games take after that. But again, like if you had the female fighting game,
oh gosh,
okay, you guys took that wrong. The one actually made for women, not the one about men wanting to watch boobs bounce around and smack things, right? It would be more like Candy Crush, or it'd be more like a walking simulator. Now, why is that? Why does it go like the skill-based ones are like this weird like multitasking stuff, and then on the other side they have walking simulator, like pick your own adventure novel video games. When they want a story, they want a book, but when they want a video game, they want no story involved at all and just arcade. But a man, right, when he has an arcade game, he wants a little more story. Even the classic Mario back in the day, he wants the little hoppy guy jumping up. Now, competitive, we could argue, really doesn't need as much story. What's the first competitive game? I guess was Pong. There wasn't exactly any story for why the thing's bouncing back and forth, unless you're imagining it's a tennis match. But oddly enough,
This is instead of this way, it's this way.
and it was like that. And it was a film. Oh man! But again, funny thing about multiplayer games and why they tend to not be female centric is because of the competition element. Men are competitive. How about that?
So who created the Snake game until it ate itself?
You know, I think that was probably a multi-gender one.
You see there.
General. Just that was you're bored, you're waiting on your mom's like 10th run through the clothing store, and you're just trying to make that snake survive as long as your consciousness. You're going brain dead. If you can keep that snake moving, baby, just a little bit longer. Though I would argue probably more female centric. That was my desperation game. My Game Boy Advance is dead or not there.
So you pull out your old like Motorola.
I remember that snake game. It was a good time.
Nokia had it on their phones all the time.
Nokia could murder people with their phones.
I mean, I had people like throw it from the top of the story of our school into the pool, like chuck it, and then have someone else dive in and get it. It still works. At rain all.
I mean, to be fair, I guess the water broke its fall, but then the water should have broke it. So hey, you got me there.
Oh, do you want to see how accurate the? Clearly, it was the advertisement, right? Yeah.
Yes, naturally.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know why it took me this long to get to this point, but it was kind of fun to get here nonetheless. So it's interesting to see how the male reading audience is so attached to video games now, because they were the only ones that survived the DEI and SJW scourge through the whole artistic realm. Artistic, historical, all of it. They're the only ones that survived because they fought back. And they're the only ones that started making stuff. And so they made stuff that they cared about and that they liked reading. Unfortunately, that also means a lot of harem anime knockoff things. Why? It's okay. We'll get through that part. I'll concentrate on the parts I like military science and fiction. Military science fiction. And
Science fiction.
I mean, I've talked about tanks a lot before. Don't tempt me, baby. We'll be here a while.
Oh yeah, we did talk about tanks the other day in the car.
Oh, that's true. I ranted about the F-35 and how much
all
it pissed me off.
because of what you saw in the sky.
The Osprey. I hate that thing too.
We saw
That
two
piece of shit.
Ospreys.
I'm with the Marines when they went, that piece of shit, keep it away from us. Thank you, Marines. You practical mother truckers. Thank you.
Now go back and eat your crayons.
Down, girl. So, it's also interesting. Because I have a novel kicking around my head. Like, the concept also.
Am I playing Pong in your head?
You know, we should go back to this too. Why the video games, why were they so robust? We were talking about this. Why are they so robust versus propaganda as well? I mean, it's definitely there, don't get me wrong. But it's mostly propaganda fed into it from like books and movies and the general culture at large. So, for example, who the villains are. racist white dudes. I will never get over the fact that Lethal Weapon 2, in a movie set in Los Angeles, made their drug dealer villains white Dutch Boers from South Africa.
Like, they can't make it.
Do they even have poppy fields out there? Wouldn't Afghanistan have made more sense if you wanted to go that far?
If they wanted to use the white South Africans, Dutch South Africans, whatever, blah blah blah, they would have
gun running.
Blood diamonds.
Blood diamonds would have made more sense.
Would have made more sense.
And gun running.
Well, not both.
That's the one thing Jews are allowed to be villains of in movies and TV shows. Gun runners. I think it's because Jews think it makes them look cool. Like, hey, look, we sell all the guns.
They just want to pretend they're in the mafia.
Yeah.
And they were just one of mafia chick there and her.
This went into a strange route, right?
No.
What if mafia chicks, huh? So like slightly angry Italian chicks who get fat when they're old?
They get black and orange thin striped suits.
Ah. I don't think that works that way.
No, I had a pair of pants once. They were office pants.
And that's just Hillary Clinton in a nutshell.
It was
those pants.
But it was funny because my brother said that I look like from the mafia. So every time I think about female mafia, I think of a suit check with the...
I'm sorry, when you say you're from the mafia, I think like you're an assassin chick. You're like Black Widow when I look at you.
With a Tommy gun. I'm thinking of like a Tommy gun that is...
Italian chicks were fat. I don't know what you're on about. You're too skinny.
I'm talking about the Italian mafia. I'm thinking.
Technically, only the Italian mafia is allowed to be called a mafia. All the other ones have different names for themselves.
You serious?
Yes. The Japanese call them Yakuza.
Yakuza, yeah.
The Chinese call themselves triads. What do they call themselves in Latin America? The cartels. What do they call themselves in Russia?
Okay, what was that famous? What was?
Cosa Nostra was actually mafia, Italian mafia.
What was? That famous mob guy in the U.S.?
You're killing me. There was a number of them, but I'm going to assume Al Capone.
Al Capone, yes. I always assumed so. Did he have a Tommy gun? Did you like Tommy guns, right?
Yes, the classic mafia.
That's what I'm thinking. The classic look. Yes, the Al Capone stuff. What were you thinking?
I'm still trying to figure out where this is even going with you. I'm trying to make sense of heads or tails, and you're just collapsing.
This is why we will get right.
Create weird Italian girlfriend with Tommy guns. I don't know. Anyway, random descent into organized crime later. What are the Russians called? Their Russian mob. They have a different term for themselves too. I can't think of what it is.
My biofather could have been part of them. Right here. And it was up an eco bird. Some kind of bird thing on his wrist.
It's okay.
I don't know what it's called though.
The bird.
No! Shit, Eric.
It's too much fun to do to you.
You know,
it's too much fun. Oh, gosh. But we were getting into why video games are a little more robust against all these challenges is because unlike comic books, and movies, your books, though, you tend to be a little more engaged, but can be more manipulative.
It was a hairstyle. I was trying to get the dog.
Male-orientated games, you have to be focused. You missed. She didn't even twitch. You have to be more focused about winning the game, playing the game, doing the gameplay, and figuring out how to win. Your brain is actually activated. It's not like with TV where you're basically the thinking part of your brain shuts off, making you easily influenced. Yes, I was very much one of those persons who talked in the movie theaters because unlike all of you, I was actually paying attention to the damn movie.
Says the guy
You
who laughed at
morons.
the Black Panther
Exactly.
movie.
And if anybody else had been paying attention, they would have been laughing too. Because it's dumb, like so dumb and lame. And even if I allow it, it's gay as fuck. That villain's motivations were stupid and made no damn sense, and his actual attempt at taking over the world was even dumber. Ironically, he was black, so leave it to Hollywood. Someday someone will watch that movie and explain to me how what I can only assume in the 2 spaceships that took off were something along the lines of maybe at best 200 to 300 bazooka spears are supposed to allow black gangs to take over.
They had women fighting the
except their spears weren't bazooka spears. They were just stabby spears. I mean, they folded out, but they weren't the vibranium bazooka spears.
Why were they on the car like that? The whole scene did not make any sense.
And then
the bike.
The point is, even if the villain got his way, he still would have lost. And it doesn't make any sense. Because I don't see how giving the Crips a bunch of bazooka spears that they would definitely accidentally shoot themselves with, which would be entertaining in and of itself, would lead to them taking over anything, let alone like New York or something. And they would definitely first use it on each other, which would be even more entertaining. Black Panther is such a stupid movie. So dumb. I wanted to like it. Believe it or not, I actually kind of enjoyed the Black Panther concept as a comic book, and I was a big fan when I was a kid. Don't know. I think it was like the Secret City concept. I really enjoyed that. I really did. But yeah, because your brain actually has to be engaged with video games, it's a lot harder to shoehorn propaganda into that. And because, you actually have to make a squirrel? Coons? On a man's... Oh, okay, never mind.
Finish the sentence.
Nope.
Don't leave it at
I'll leave it at that. That's what I'm doing, baby.
You're gonna be like, what are you...
You horrible, dirty-minded person, you. Oh, I'm talking to them because they're just like you right now. If they're trying to imagine what that Coons is on, you despicable person. You need Jesus. In fair, we all need Jesus, but you need him more. Anyway, so yes, rabbit butt pancakes. So I think you were bored of this stream, as you just wanted to make it more spicy. Like, here's random pervy raccoon stuff.
It was not pervy.
Your dog is looking at you. Hi, Rosie. I'm sorry. Is boss number 2 beating up on boss number 1, and you can't handle
it? Was a military gear helmet with raccoon on it.
You dirty person. That killed the pervy coons. Anyway, so because your mind's engaged, right? Propaganda doesn't work as much, and they're much more willing to fight back. You'll notice that when they're trying to make propaganda video games, they have a hard time making the gameplay part of the game. I mean, they have a hard time now even making the pretty part of the game. Like, but when the first really pretty, like if we will, like the first propaganda games, I mean, there were always some propaganda, but that was like just cultural elements seeping in. But more propaganda-ish games, they were usually like really pretty and didn't have a lot of glitches, and then there would be really crappy gameplay. The walking simulator ones. The thinking they were all being pretentious and artistic, and they were just being really lame in the end. You know what I'm talking about. And the point is, first of all, they're getting a lot of the propagandists from spaces that never played video games, so they don't understand what makes a game fun and engaging, and that part that engages your brain stops the propaganda from being as effective, which is a problem. And they have a hard time because a story, when it's implemented into a game, is going to feel jarring if it doesn't play into the game, which sounds weird, but it's like, if I have a story about military science fiction, Halo style, fighting aliens, trying to survive. And then the gameplay is all about me being a sushi chef. There's going to be some weird dissonance. Now that I say it, I think an indie game could probably pull it off. How the sushi chef survives the apocalypse. Yes, apocalypse sushi chef. It sells itself, wife. But even then, right? How did we already know how the story plays out there in that indie game, and it should play out. So, hold on a minute. Ha! Okay, good. We're not being watched. We'll continue. What? Is that man being shot at?
No, he's shooting the water to move his boat.
America! Love it! Can I do that next? Oh, this actually sounds like fun. Momentum, baby!
Fish are gonna pop up.
It reminds me of I know how to make it unique. We'll put like skis on a chair, and we'll shoot guns off the chair on like a lake, a frozen lake. See how far you go. Yeah. Anyway, you can already see how that storyline plays into the gameplay plays into the story in the background. You could have just made a game about a sushi chef, but because you added all those other story elements, it makes it more wacky. And if you're really good about it, you make it so that it plays into the elements of the gameplay. Maybe to get the ingredients, and the ingredients get wackier and stranger as it's harder to get more as the apocalypse continues. You have to do various gameplay to get your ingredients. Blah blah blah. The certain game has played something like that. I think it's called Dave the Diver, where you have to dive deeper and deeper to get more and more exotic fish. Something like that. Kind of fun.
The game that you used to play?
No, I only looked at it online.
Okay. You don't have
I don't have the sushi chef game. No, that's when I was in.
Dave the Diver.
Not Dave the Diver. I don't know that.
You have other diving games. The aquatic, whatever.
Oh, you are thinking of Subnautica.
Subnautica, that's the one.
You do not make sushi in Subnautica.
I'm not even thinking about sushi.
This was a sushi chef game of the apocalypse.
I was paying attention. Yes, I know.
Are you paying attention? I think you're confused. That's the funny thing. Like, you're ready for the stream to be over. You're like, hey, this sounds like another water game you play. Ooh.
I'm sorry.
And it's okay. I can make fun of you, and the stream gets entertaining. Nothing like making fun of my wife to make this stream entertaining. So, all right. And you see how that plays into it. If you completely ignore the things that make your storyline and how it could play into your gameplay, or vice versa, the gameplay playing into your storyline, elements play nice together and work nice together, you're not going to make it's going to feel jarring and wrong. A lot of it's kind of in background stuff that you don't even think about. Like I brought up way back when, the Mario chasing the monkey, trying to save the chick. You don't think about it. You don't really care too much about the logic of why the buildings are shaped so funky or why they're so tall or anything like that. But it just kind of feels right that you're saving the chick from the monkey. Or you're saving later on the chick from the weird turtle dragon in a castle. Yeah. Hey, Felix is here. It would be nice to see Perry Roden translated for the English-speaking market. It's been around longer than Doctor Who, yet it rarely mentioned in the West and is a classic space opera. I don't know who Perry Roden is. Or is that the name of the space opera? Things to look up. Fun stuff to do. But yeah. So, going back to my original point, that's why women have that. I see women developers, when they're trying to make video games, seem to have a
German science space opera franchise.
That sounds like fun. A German science. Ooh. Does that mean the
in 1961.
What's ooh about that too, as you think about it, is a German perspective on space opera has to be much different than the more classic, what we're used to, space opera. It's the name of the series, been around for over 80 years. 60 years now? I can't read. I'm not
60 years.
Yeah. Actually have someone come on talking about literature. What's up, man? I almost got it was funny. I was talking about the one time I got censored, and
shut
all our
up.
equipment like started breaking down. It was hilarious. So I keep checking behind my head to see if someone's watching me through my window.
Stop.
Really? We're done?
Stop. Go.
Huh? Wife doesn't like to be reminded. Oh man, but I'm running out of things to talk about. But yeah, kind of the problem.
Finally, somebody's here, and now you're.
If I knew more about the book he brought up, but I need time to read it, right? And I don't speak German. I am very curious about what a German space opera looks like compared to, the more Anglo-Saxon style. Obviously, Anglo-Saxon is kind of an intense term for it, but you get the point. More Saxony, Britishy. Descended nations take on space operas. English world. I don't know why I made that so complicated, but I did. Are they really efficient? Or are they like those German operas with the Valkyries and all that? The rings and whatnot that Lord of the Rings was based on. Well, it took references from, not based on. That's probably the wrong way to put it. But yeah, I find that female developers especially have trouble connecting gameplay with storyline in meaningful ways. They tend to want to.
They have so much solipsism.
Yeah.
Keeps them from doing anything.
They either want to just make it a do your own novel thing, and then like the gameplay is tactically slapped on, or they just want it to be Candy Crush. Or the snake. Oh, how dare you attack me? Fila says they each have their own unique flavor, but Japan, Germany, and Russia are the next closest rank regarding science fiction and especially space opera output. You're so vicious. Great. Now I have to start studying space operas from different countries, and I don't know any of their languages. Japanese space. Well, I mean, if I could tack on what I've seen in their animes, I imagine Japanese space opera. Yeah, okay, I got a feel for that. Russian, though.
I wouldn't know.
You wouldn't know.
I don't know anything about space operas except for they have bubble helmets.
Bubble helmets? Babe, Star Wars is space opera, basically.
They wear helmets.
Kind of like space fantasy with sci-fi elements is the best way to put it.
Star Trek. Okay.
No, those are more hard science fiction.
Okay.
But Babylon 5 is less. Space opera will have more spiritual elements in it that aren't just straight Eastern religion. If that makes sense. I think Star Wars, well, that was Eastern religion, but you get the point. I don't know my example was literally Eastern religion. Well, bam. Space opera is more about the spectacle and the scale, while science fiction is more about the ideas and stuff. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. The moon.
I find it ironic. This is what Felix Concolor says. The most powerful scene in The Crest of the Stars, as the captain of a battle cruiser, battlecruisers, effectively state, "Now go and remember your mother loves you." Oh, okay. This is a positive thing towards his own soldiers. For a second, I thought he was doing like insulting the enemy, but then it ended with "your mother loves you," not like "your mother hates you, you little whore." You're gonna kill someone. You don't want them to feel nice about it. Also, man, if we're gonna talk about military science fiction, I have a bone to pick. A big bone. Gosh dang it, that went wrong. With
If only you would make it that way.
with ship classifications. They are all over the place, and they drive me nuts. You know, when you got soda, you could have let the cat out.
I realized that. And okay.
Like, for instance, when you say battle cruiser, I have to sit here and scratch my head. It's like, what does he mean by that? Are we just saying like big angry spaceship? Are we going with what cruisers were originally meant to be, which was so big and powerful but fast, not
and
able?
You know what the women say? You know, the battle cruiser.
Exactly. Big scary ship.
Which one?
It's do. How does it do the thing? What's the doctrine here?
What makes it big? What
Like,
makes it scary?
When I should be able to go, okay, battle cruiser. That means it's not quite as big as a battleship, but it has lots of guns and less armor. It's designed for battle and flanking.
And
It's designed for getting a better position and doing a lot of damage on target, but it can't take as many hits, which the battleships are designed to take. And then your more standard cruiser is designed more for raiding. It's more designed for getting in there and destroying all the
quickly.
Well, it's because it's fast, but it's really heavily armed.
Yeah.
But it's not heavily armored. It's able to go in, go around the big heavy ships, attack all the ships in the back, if you will,
and then leave.
Mm-hmm. Not meant for battle. It was more meant for surface raiders. So the cruisers were designed. They never got to do it because air power kind of stopped them.
Okay.
For basically, the idea was you make a ship that's powerful enough to destroy all the escorts of a convoy, and you're going to basically destroy the convoy, but fast enough to outrun every battleship it runs into. Okay, this is going to go serious armament, but lighter armor and higher speed than cap. See, they understood what a battlecruiser meant in this situation. It's good. Now, of course, there's also like,
sorry, my legs burn.
Hello.
Okay.
Of course, this also changes accordingly. Thank you. I'm glad they had that. I prefer that because it's in the name, right? Cruiser. It cruises. It's supposed to be long range, heavy hitting. It's also like, for example, the British cruisers were designed to go all the way around the world without having to be rearmed or refuel as much, and they were usually in like sorry. In smaller navies, the cruiser could be treated like a battleship because that's just the bigger ship. I'm just gonna sit here.
I'm sinking in the couch cushion.
I'm melting. Because it's just the biggest ship they had. Entertainingly enough. That I hate when sci-fi authors don't actually do just a modicum of research to figure this stuff out. One that's always annoyed me is like how modern navies have no freaking clue what their shit is supposed to be. Like everything's just a destroyer of the cat or a frigate, and no one's and now for some reason the destroyers are bigger than frigates.
What?
I'm confused too.
That's the destroyers for top tier.
Yeah,
like the top of the food chain.
Yeah, it's so like in my mind, right? I guess I'm stuck in World War II and I'm like a boomer or something. But a destroyer is supposed to be a smaller ship.
PTSD.
like a heavy in armament, but smaller crew, right? Then you have something entertaining like in Helldivers 2, where it's a super destroyer. Ooh. What do we got now, Felix? I am reminded of the General Belgrano, which was a heavy World War II cruiser sold from the U.S. to Argentina and eventually sunk during the final wars in the 80s. Dang, yeah, that was used for a long time, wasn't it? That was entertaining. I remember I'm reminded of the various cruisers that the uh, Confederates bought from the British and used to raid. There was like two big ones, and one actually got caught in a bit of trouble because it destroyed like 15 whaling ships a few weeks after the war was technically over, and because they were on the high seas, they didn't know, and they didn't believe the whaling ships when they told them the war was already over.
Oh wow.
So they had to run for it because the now just straight up U.S. was going to try them as pirates. They got away, but accidental piracy was accidental and entertaining. That was a cool ship too. It was pretty big. Yeah.
Waiting ships. Now you got me thinking of that whale story with that whale ship. The whaling.
Oh, the one with the snake,
With
the
the
sea
sea
serpent.
serpent,
Yeah.
yeah.
Good times. I forgot to share that one on Social Galactics to look at when he saw it. Dang it. But yeah, if you're into anything creepy like that, there was a really unique and interesting sea serpent story that got out. Really interesting with a whaling ship. Hold the whale of a tail, and like they had a body and everything. They killed it. They gutted it like it was a whale. They put it. They
sent out a letter, right?
They sent a letter on another ship that they were passing by as they went back to their business of more whaling, detailing everything, and then their ship disappeared.
Everything, even the stuff they were gonna
Curse
back,
of the sea serpent.
The,
Yeah, they found bits
like
of
they kept the head or something, right?
Yeah, they kept the head, and they butchered it like they would a whale.
Yeah.
They turned it into like
the
oil.
perfume, right?
Well, no, they used it for lamp oil and industrial stuff. That's what they were doing. That's what whalers were so important for until they started being able to get oil out of the ground.
Oh wow.
Oh, what are you doing, Cat? Why do you always panic? He's like, no, I don't want to be here, guys.
You don't want to be around me because I left you in the bathroom too long?
No, it's the couch. He's scared the dog's going to jump on him.
Poor thing.
Cecil, the C6 Caesar. I don't think they ever named it, but the only thing we know is the captain left this really detailed letter about how they dissected it, how the oil was, the fact that it had instead of scales like whaley blubbery skin, and what the shape of the head was.
Too, or something?
All this crazy stuff. I don't know if they drew a sketch. Can't remember how the fight went with their boats and all this other stuff, and then the ship just disappears. And there's a bit
everything on it.
Yeah, and there's a bits of the wreck was found in like the Arctic region they were going. So, thanks, Cat. Well, that's what he thinks about sea serpents.
Cat walking.
Meow. Ooh. I'm sure it's been done, but now I kind of want like a space opera meets Moby Dick, but more interesting. Because Moby Dick was a boring book. It has interesting concepts, but I'd rather hear the concepts in Spark Notes than actually read that book. Straight. Sometimes people get caught up too much in what a book's trying to say, and they forget that the book's actually not that well written. And Moby Dick is one of those books. You know, I get the concept, the white whale destroying yourself for your goal and vengeance and all that crap, blah, 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 blah. But the book itself, not that well written. Oh, he's watching the guy watching us. Good job, Cat. Stare him down. Yeah. I don't know what you think. Don't climb in the window. What are you doing? He's So, but anyway, that'd be kind of interesting. The chasing space whale or space monster that's big enough to challenge your battle cruiser. There you go. But it would probably be more of just a cruiser in that sense, because it'd be a long range cruiser. So, and people don't think about. Get over there. People don't think about that too. Like the ships were designed for different things. You had your British cruisers that were more meant for the home defense. Those were like heavily armored battle cruisers. Then you had the ones that were meant to go all over their colonies. Those had a higher concentration on fuel efficiency and fuel. They didn't need as big of guns because they were fighting much smaller navies. It was more important that they got there. It's funny, cruisers got their name because they were like big ships that were meant to be impressive, that could cruise around to a bunch of ports all over the world to impress people with how cool their navies were. That's how they started. Then they turned into like a mixture of roles of like the flankers during the big attacks, the fast kind of get in there and get your guns on a weak point kind of ship, to also being surface raiders and then being flagships in far off small naval engagements. Incidentally enough, there was a World War One engagement on Africa on a lake between guys who strapped guns on their like dinghy boats.
Seriously?
Yeah, I'm very entertained by that.
In a lake?
In a lake.
How big?
It was a big lake, but again, they just had like motorboats and they slapped these guns on their boats. Shot. It's great. It's great. I'm entertained.
So you think you've seen Louisiana?
It's almost as entertaining as in the War of 18. I think it was War of 1812. The it was either War of 1812 or Revolution. One of those wars of Britain. This guy totally like had no fleet, but he like made rafts and stuff to attack the British fleet in the Great Lakes, and they won with the making rafts and stuff and slapping guns on them and just making makeshift boats
In the Great Lakes.
in the Great Lakes, because the Great Lakes connect to the ocean. Most people don't understand
yeah.
that. So the British Navy were in there. Not their best ships by any means, but they were there in actual ships with guns and marines and all that. And they got beat by this ramshackle built on the side of the lake crazy man's plan. I'm very entertained by that. Oh, I should read. A major theme running through Jeff Smith's Bone story, which is the comic book, was Lord of the Rings, is the fantasy literature. Okay, most people still feel us talking here. Most people don't know the battle for Tenochtitlan. Oh, dang it! I was gonna bring that up. You beat me to it. Basically, as he was saying, Tenochtitlan has a great naval battle as the city was built on the lake, and the Spanish under Cortez,
Mm-hmm.
they disassembled their ships and like carried them to the lake and assembled them there. And just like the Vikings of old used to carry their ships, and then they had a naval battle as they besieged the city. That was the second time. The first time they were allowed in, and during the Noche Triste, when they were trying to they were besieged there, like the first battle of Tenochtitlan, right? They were there. They were Spanish, were doing very good things, and then there was a certain point where Cortez was gone, and a Spanish commander went, "I don't like these Aztecs," and he went in with his guys and like killed all of the the royalty and lords. Just wiped them all out at one of their parties. Now, to be fair, there was probably cannibalism going in at one of these parties. And they were big on cannibalism.
I can tell you who was doing it. Yeah, the Aztecs.
Yeah, so there's a very good chance it was more than just him being a bloodthirsty bastard and just kind of
didn't like it.
Like, I might be reading too into the story, but there was a Green Beret, for example, who got tired of hearing an Afghanistan guy raping boys in his office next to his sleeping area and broke ranks and killed the dude in the night. I like to think that that's what was going on. Sick of seeing all the cannibalism, went, all right, everyone, grab your swords. We're going to go kill all them guys. Unfortunately, that event led to the Aztecs going, I don't think these Spanish guys are gods. Let's try to kill them. And they got besieged inside the main city. And it's like Cortez came back and went to his lieutenant, went like, you just killed us all. What are you doing, you moron? Basically, I'm paraphrasing. He was much more eloquent in Spanish. They really are. And that one was interesting because in that siege, they built, because something happened to their cannons, so they built a catapult. That never worked. But I think they also made a cannon or something and held off millions of Aztecs for like months. And then they did a fighting withdrawal where they tried to escape. And this is the Noche Triste, the sad night, as they called it. And they got caught on their way out when they were sneaking out trying to escape the siege. The classic story is some woman going down to fetch water late at night, caught them and raised the alarm. Uh, Incidentally, there's also, if we can talk about witchcraft, there's La Llorona. Some people say that goes back to a woman crying out for the kids that died untenderly. Like, I would argue much earlier connections, but we could say that they have different connections to her for different reasons, and it's interesting with those stories. There'll be stories where there's like a group of Mexicans and a group of white people, and only the Mexicans hear the witch crying, and the white people feel really uncomfortable, but they don't hear anything. Like they have that something's wrong, but they don't see or hear anything, and all the Mexicans hear the crying coming closer. It's very fascinating, but that's not the point. The point is, let's get to the part that my wife's not uncomfortable about. The Spanish, the less greedy Spanish survived that night because the more gold that they hid on their person, the more they sank when they fell in the water, and they had to basically do an aquatic escape off of this island in the middle of a lake. So the greedier Spaniards drowned, and then the less greedy ones made it. And then Cortez took all their gold to hire more mercenaries to come back. It's a bit of an asshole move, but I guess it worked, right? I mean, you imagine you being one of those Spaniards, you saw your friends die who grabbed too much gold, and your one gold bar that you took with you, right? And then Cortez takes it from you. Like, oh, well, thanks, boss. It's not like I fought my way and swam with this damn thing around my neck for 10 while being attacked by wild cannibals who want to sacrifice me to their weird cannibal gods. Thank you. Take my gold. It's all right. They all got rich afterwards if they survived. Most people also don't know. Felix brought me on this thing. I always want... Like, there's at least one video game I've seen on Steam that tries to do it, but video games in the pike and shot era. It's kind of the Renaissance era.
Pike and shot.
Because,
infantry.
Yeah, most people don't know.
It took forever left.
I hear very careful. Is that the Spaniards were... The people have this concept in their mind that the Spaniards were shooting guns at the Aztecs from like 12 billion miles away and just shooting them down in rows and rows, and it was no contest. No. The Spaniards were pikemen with gunmen embedded in them. This was like Alexander the Great style battle with guns and crossbows mixed in and cannons and then cavalry. It was much more of a personal... The pikemen broke armies of like millions of Aztecs. And because they were so heavily outnumbered, there were stories about them like fighting to the point where like they couldn't even lift their swords anymore because there were that many Aztecs coming at them.
And they're probably eating on them.
Yes, the Aztecs were... Actually, all of the people, including the Spanish allies, had a bad habit of stopping mid-battle to snack on bodies.
Disgusting.
And again, most of the Aztec weapons weren't designed for killing, but maiming and knocking out. Because their main point was to try to get more people to sacrifice. They wanted to kill them just on top of their pyramids to their dark gods. What a lovely people. What a lovely people. Yeah, everything's moving again. Me again. So, I would like video games actually exploring that a little bit more. I mean, we do have video games in the what was that one video game in the like Napoleonic era that actually works in some multiplayer game? There's also the Civil War game. So maybe we could pull out like that same system of you hooking up as an individual in a pike formation would be really entertaining. Let's see. Obsidian edged weapons photograph well. Yeah, but they're far too brittle to be used in real combat situations. Exactly. And when you're dealing with a Spaniard who has steel armor on and helmets, you know, the obsidian just shatters on the armor and the shield. Problem is there's just so many Aztecs that they couldn't cut for them all. And they would be running out of ammunition, and there's, you know, their swords and everything. they wouldn't be able to lift their swords anymore, and they'd be just like dragged to the ground and dragged off. Very interesting, very crazy war. That oddly enough, most people don't know this. The Aztecs actually had the prophecies that said they were gods. It's more than that. This prophecy was basically a Christ-like figure came and told all of the Aztecs and the various other nations that they needed to stop being cannibalistic assholes, or else these god-like people were going to come across the sea and murder them all. Isn't that interesting? It's like God warned them, hey, shape up or I'm going to give you into the hands of the people across the sea, which sounds very familiar to certain prophecies in the Bible, if you know what I mean. They very much kept doing their cannibalistic things. And then God said, well, okay, here are these crazy Spaniards, which I helped them over a period of 500 years to regain their homeland, turning them into a fine-edged wild people, stern, strong, absolutely not going to take any shit from anybody, and definitely going to stab you in the face for being a pervy cannibalistic freak. How about that? Good times. Yeah. It's also interesting. I'm all over the place. I'm wild. I need to calm down. I was about to start bringing up the conflict between the Spaniards and the... no, not them. Not them. Not them. Why are there so many freaking little weird tribes? Ah! Why are they all trying to force their names in when they're in the wrong spot? Stop it. Stop it. Not them. This sucks.
You look constipated.
I feel constipated. Okay. It's not the Apache. It's not. Or was it the Apache?
No.
No, there was another one. There was the Apache, there was the Cherokee, and there was the other ones that everybody hated. The ones that fought the Texas. The what the fuck? I think it started with a C. Anyway, they were assholes, and the Texans fought them later too. Funny little story, right?
Cherokee.
No, it was not the Cherokee. I already said it wasn't the Cherokee. They were most similar to the Apache, but the Apache hated them. Everyone, basically, they called themselves something else, but everybody called them like our adversaries, basically, are the asshole. Basically, everyone's like, these guys are assholes. and that name, calling them an asshole, was the one that stuck because they were assholes. And everyone agreed they were assholes. But the Spanish actually had long conflicts with them for a crazy amount of time in the Texas plains. What led to them... it actually led to the... No. It's similar to the Apache. Like, the name sounds similar. But basically...
Apaches. No.
But basically, it created the Texas nation because, and I call them a nation, they're a nation. They never should have joined the empire. It was stupid. They, like, imagine that dumbness, right? They create their own nation. They scratch it out with little to no help from the Americans. And then they just give over their sovereignty to the Americans for some reason. Like, why? You fought so hard to not be part of the Mexican Empire so you could join the American Empire? I mean, at least they're white like you, I guess. But all they did was instantly throw you in a massive civil war. Like, why did you join the Union if you were going to instantly join a war to leave the Union? It's dumb. But basically, the Spanish got tired of fighting them and hiring soldiers to try to protect the Texas Plains area. So what they did was allow a bunch of British people to settle between them and this Indian tribe, so they didn't have to worry about defense anymore. And what actually sparked the Texas, the War of Texas, whatever you call it, when they get their.
tribe called the Kickapoo.
There was, but they're not the assholes we're talking about. They're the kick of the poo from the asshole, but they are not the asshole. Anyway, so what sparked it was the Mexicans wanted more control after becoming the Mexican Empire. And Santa Anna basically did a decree saying that they had to give up all their cannons, all the civilians, and particularly the what would become the Texans, the British settlers that were put there as a buffer between them and the raiding tribes in the plains. And the Texans went, no, because if you take our cannons, we have nothing to defend against these tribes who are going to rape and kill us all, which was very much what they did. And that sparked the war, which is why a lot of people don't understand. They just think, oh, America just took Texas from Mexico. No, Spaniards and Mexicans got lazy, stopped wanting to fight over all this territory, settled British people there to basically die so they didn't have to die. The British people got so good at it that they were able to kick the Mexicans' ass. And naturally, in that situation, the right of conquest and all is a thing, and blah, blah, blah. I would say the ones who were fighting and developing the land, it was basically their land at that point. The Spanish and the Mexicans ceded that land so they didn't have to fight over it. And then your move is to basically make it so that they can't fight back, which makes sure they die by angry Indian.
Navajos was called shovel butt.
And it wasn't the Navajo either. Navajo. What a hoe. Those Navajos. Comanche! Comanche. That was the one. That took forever to come out.
Yeah, usually you're very quick to come out.
Yeah, I know. That one did not want to come out. Comanche. Whew. So, yeah. Oh, that would be a fun video game, too. Following the Texas Rangers fighting the Comanche. Be a difficult one, though, because you're still dealing with muskets and all that. The Comanches had basically this style of warfare where they'd try to convince the Rangers to fire their guns because they knew it took a couple of minutes to reload.
Forever to load.
So if they heard the shots go off, they would come in and just get into the melee, right? The Texas Rangers were way better shots, and they got better at the melee as time went on. So it was this cat and mouse between when they shoot, when they don't shoot. There's like stories of like hours standoff between like one or two guys caught between like 10 Comanches, just kind of like, and they're just hold them off, waiting, get close enough, mother trucker, I'll take you out. Oh man, it would be interesting as hell. I mean, and I think making it almost like a bounty hunter game where you have to chase down the Comanche, like the story arcs would be you chasing down the Comanches that just did a raid or something. That'd be kind of fun. Like, it's not just, oh, you fight. It's you have to chase them down and catch them before they get away with the loot. You can almost make that a multiplayer game. You could make the single player game. It could be kind of interesting. Ooh. So you can almost make it like the Comanche gameplay is like a Tarkov style for them, where they have to get the loot and get out. And then the Texas Rangers is a new thing where they're basically trying to catch you before you leave. And they have more firepower, but less numbers. Yes. Very interesting life. My gosh, we've been at this for 2 hours. I guess that means I've technically talked enough. Yeah. What was the original plotline point?
We were talking about how women in groups kind of...
Oh, right. Well, that was way back when. If we go for the points, they pushed men out of books because they wanted to put propaganda in the books, and women are much more susceptible to propaganda. Thus, when you get that groupthink going on, they'll push out all the men who will push back against the propaganda. They have that strong, like, we are part of the group. You are not part of the group. Get out. And they don't.
All the men went to the video games.
Right. They ran like comic books, movies, and then video games. And it's interesting. They're still wanting their fiction. but that influence turned into male readership having a very video game influenced genres. Military science fiction is heavily influenced by Halo games. I mean, Star Wars games, not as much games. You get the point. Like those side novels there. Uh, we could also argue for like Warhammer 40K novels. Not as much my thing, but yeah. And you get right heavily influenced. They tie into each other a lot. And then the other one is literally novels about guys playing RPG games, like these super RPG games, the end all RPG games using in VR. I like the ones that add a little more stakes, like Soda Pop Soldier, as I brought up. And then you have, unfortunately, the ones more influenced by anime, which is the harem stuff. Shouldn't leave that where it's at. But you can see how the influence came, why they bring the video games in with them. And, it used to be more like if you were to make a story like the RPG thing would have been a story about a guy playing football. But guess what? Football's been utterly annihilated. Like the NFL has been completely destroyed by DEI nonsense now. It's a joke what it is. Uh, they've somehow made cage fighting MMA stuff look gay. Not as much. We have more strike, but still kind of gay now and very much fixed in weird ways. And most of the sports have been sports. Anything isn't worth looking at because they're just so DEI fest. You don't want to watch it. But so now guys are turning towards, well, hey, if I'm not going to read a cool novel about a guy being the best baseball guy ever, I'm going to read a novel guy being the best RPG guy ever.
In the sport world.
Yeah. Fila says, I didn't make a tentacle fiend run screaming from the room by playing a single Sister Princess special counter scene for him. Oh, God. Horrifying. I don't know what's scarier, the Princess special or the tentacle fiend. Or that you had them both in the same place with you.
Singing.
Fearless. That's very questionable. Oh, man. Oh, yeah. I do. Hey, wife, do you do? Do you do? I don't know. I was making weird play on words. I think it's probably time for me to get up. Get off. My jokes aren't even making sense to me anymore. This is getting bad. But
I'm just looking at dresses.
Yeah, this is how video games kind of saved the male reading stuff because they had an area where they were able to fight back against the propaganda. Now, again, because there's too many libertarian tards around, you're going to have this situation where they're going to lose ground. Like, remember what Gamergate was fighting fighting against back in the day. Now, what are we fighting against now? Like, literally, actual gay sex scenes in games, and people saying, "Oh, hey, if you don't,
and
pedophilic gay sex scenes in games, and like all this other stuff," and them trying to argue because some of the gameplay is good that's okay, and you're just being a bigot. Like, what? I don't care if the gameplay is good. There's weird sex scenes in it. I don't. This. What do you mean I can't have an RPG without all that crap in it? What's going on here? There used to be a time. Even in that game, by the way, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, there are sex scenes, quote unquote, with females, but guess what? Those scenes all fade to black. The man on man, or rather boy on boy action, doesn't fade to black for quite some time. That's what they're fighting against now. That shows a loss of territory from the Gamergate days, which was just, could you make some decent games? Right? And stop trying to push us out and stop putting all your feminist nonsense in here, right? Now it's like, hey, just don't do the obvious DEI stuff, but putting gay sex everywhere is fine. It's so annoying to me, the libertarian crowd, who can't defend anything. Because every time... Did he put a no comment? Oh, Felix says he couldn't handle the overdose of in light, especially. year. I'm gonna leave that one where it goes. That was a while back. But the libertarian has no defense against someone using his vices against him because he's so terrified of someone outlawing the vices. Because libertarianism is just you're hi cat. Libertarianism is either you're like my cat, and you're just passing through, or you want an excuse for why you have your vices, and that's it. And
But everybody else can have their vices.
yeah, well, no, everyone. No,
Well,
the whole point is if you outlaw that guy's vices, you might outlaw my vices, and so I will defend his vices as hard as I can.
Get mine.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I will make sure we're all as rich as possible so we can all enjoy our vices. That's basically all libertarian is. Now, at first,
Heck?
well, and they
like
have
your uncle's argument with
Yeah.
church and state.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
it's
I
this,
get it now.
yeah, it's this thing of they it takes out all the teeth. So you have no defense against something like gay sex in a video game because they'll be just like, hey, we're just a player, blah blah blah, and degradation of culture, forcing things in there where you eventually, these people will get to the point where they'll put gay sex everywhere and make it so you can't skip it and all this other crap, and you have to love it and enjoy it and all this other stuff, right? It's always the end game. It gets pedophilic and weird and wild, and it goes there as fast as humanly possible. It's this thing, libertarianism, because it's so you either have people who are in libertarianism because they don't understand it yet, and there's some things in it that sound nice, like, hey, you leave me alone, I leave you alone, right? That sounds nice when you're like a very solo thinking type of person. Government, get out of my business, blah blah blah. Yeah, right? Those people are passing through. Eventually they're going to get to the point where they see their representative stripping on stage. Yes, that did happen, and yes, he was fatter than me.
Oh gosh.
Bearded, fat, ginger dude stripping on stage at their libertarian, very serious political convention.
I don't know.
Oddly enough, you may think that that's shocking, but I would argue that that's exactly what they stand for. So he actually understood libertarianism more than the serious people at that event. Irony, to say the least. Or there are people who want their vices and will defend anyone's vices to the hilt so that their vices are left alone. Basically, they want everyone as rich as possible and all the vices allowed. They want Las Vegas all the time, every time. And they will actively attack you, even though you're pointing out that their Las Vegas is falling apart because of their lack of morals, aren't allowing them to fight back against those people who will take advantage of that situation to create DEI hellholes, right? They have no defense against that.
Well.
They can only exist as a leech inside a Christian, and have to be a Christian.
Get up.
It's so funny right now.
Don't stand.
Cat's like, you've been at this for 2 hours. Do something else.
Put this on your tail.
Vicious.
Yeah, you get it in the cardboard box.
And so, this is why Gamergate is doomed to eventually fail like the conservatives, is because all the other side has to do is do what they did with Kingdom Come 2 Deliverance and do all the stuff they want to do, but pretend that they're not doing it. Now, of course, they want to be able to also say they're doing it and rub it in your face. But if all they have to do is pretend and push it down the road farther, well, they're eventually going to win. Like, the only way... now, the only way for that crowd to win is to basically get Jesus and understand that if you don't stop them, they will stop you. So you might as well just stop them. Basically, it was the hard understanding that I had to learn, and Vox helped a lot with this, was in a situation where the only way for the system to work is for everyone not to take advantage of the system. The first people to take advantage of the system win every single time. And telling them not to take advantage of the system is obviously going to fail because they don't care and they're going to take advantage of the system. You know what I'm saying? Like, in a situation with free speech, for example, the first people to cancel out the other people's speech wins every single time. Just because they convince you not to silence them doesn't mean when they take power, they won't silence you. So what do? Well, unfortunately, the only answer is you have to silence them because they're going to silence you. I know it sucks. It feels gay. I hate it. I don't like it either. But you know what? It's that or they silence us eventually. It's that or they silence my kids. What are you going to do? Well, you're going to silence them until they convince you not to silence them, and then they're going to silence you. And then you hope that there's another generation willing to actually say, you know what, you're not going to do that to us. Shut up. Now, does that mean we have to destroy all wrong think constantly? No, you can't. It's not like that. It's more of any signs of like the Satanistic movements that. Oh, hi, Doug. Say hi, Rosie. I love you too, Doug. And yes, thank you. You're very distracting. Basically, as long as the Gamergate types aren't willing to completely expunge the other types, even by force, and not let them into their movements and not let them into their places, and get Jesus fully, and then not let the Satanism in, right? Not let the evil in. Till they're willing to do that, they're always going to lose because they can't fight their real enemy because they don't think their real enemy exists. They can't fight them properly. They can't fight them head on because all the other side has to do is bring out the libertarian idiot who's just scared that they're going to outlaw his porn someday and will literally sacrifice society so his porn will still exist. I have very low esteem of these people. Can you notice? And keep in mind, I went from a more libertarian mindset. I never went full libertarian because they never could get me on the drug thing. I always questioned their logic on it. Like when they would always do this stupid thing where they'd say, oh, the places that legalized marijuana usage instantly saw a decrease in crime. And my first answer was, yeah, because you just made it legal. If you made murder legal, you would make crime go down because now all the murders aren't considered crimes. You're not lowering crime, you're redefining what crime is. And that's, of course, going to lower crime. It's basically just a statistics game. That's all it is. And it was very dumb. And I can't help but point out, but all the places that have legalized it are turning into liberal hellholes. Bit of a problem. Does Seattle not have a crime problem? Oops. Nominating Felix says nominating potheads doesn't help your prospects for advancement or just maintaining your society. There's not a lot of potheads fixing toilets. Right? There's not a lot of potheads maintaining your electric lines.
Yeah, you know why? Because it's all affected what's in here.
Exactly. And it's a frustrating thing because potheads have a tendency to be a few different people. And they definitely don't like to be serious work type people. Okay, there are the degenerates who just work in blue collar jobs that'll smoke it all the time. But you're talking like your engineer types, your guys who are actually like building and maintaining.
Like a hippie thinker.
Yeah, they usually either want to be a hippie thinker or society has pushed things to the point where it's okay for the blue collar kind of trashy guy to, yeah. Like, there's a difference between your electrician and your electrician who does half his work, walks like a duck, cusses all the time,
goes to all the strip clubs. No.
Right, you know. I might be describing
bring up Duckman.
I may be describing a real world man who was very confused of why I wasn't very impressed by the fact that strippers were interested in him.
Well, it's like you had to stay in a hotel room with him.
Yes. Beguiled by the stories of how the strippers would go on dates with him after he went to the strip club. Even if the stories were true, I don't believe it.
That's what happens when you start doing pot. You had those weird hallucinations
I just
of
laugh.
strippers in your head.
And even if it was true, you're like,
Where you don't know
strippers aren't
reality.
really
They're
high
not really pretty.
quality women.
They're not.
And even the pretty strippers aren't considered high quality women for obvious
They'll
reasons.
be like Andrew's physical friends.
You know, the
There'll
alpha.
be 3.
That's true. I mean, there are pretty strippers. They exist. As the modern world happens, but they're not high quality women. They're not the type you bring home the mom. They're not the type that an alpha marries, right? An alpha might sleep with one, but he's
they
not
got
going
no
to marry
brain
one,
either.
right? You know,
They're just.
I'm not saying alphas marry like the farmer's daughter. They marry the cheerleader, but the cheerleader doesn't strip because she knows what she's worth. She knows what she can get out of it. She might be jumping around and giving you attention.
Would have more skill than a stripper.
Yeah, most of the time. You get what I'm saying here, right? It's interesting. The high quality woman who understands, and maybe that's the wrong word, but the high status woman who understands what she has, or at least instinctively understands what she has, doesn't sell it so cheaply as a stripper does. And so it's really funny
self-respect first.
to have this pot-headed guy who thinks he's the coolest little dude in the world, like so confused, A, that I didn't want to go to the strip club, and B, that I wasn't impressed with his stories about dating strippers. And it was really funny to see his face when he walked, like I was having, because we were dating at the time, and he walked in and I'm like, oh hey, yeah, this is my girlfriend, and he saw how pretty she was, and like his like brain like fried. It was the funniest thing in the world.
I haven't seen a pretty girl, have you?
I don't know. Like a lot of people,
you don't have to go to strip clubs to meet somebody.
Well, a lot of it too was, guys like that don't think somebody like me
could actually get somebody.
Who saves himself for marriage and could have the high quality, high status woman. Like it's like, pew! Like what? He doesn't even drink or smoke pot. Like, sorry, don't know what to tell you, bro. I mean, we are a unique case, but I will be straight. Like I've had other women interested in me, mostly when I wasn't so fat. And there's a reason why I'm with her. But the point is, what was my point? The point is, I never went for the libertarian stuff because they pushed me back with stupid arguments from the very beginning that didn't make sense, or were just little statistic games like that, or completely ignoring long-term consequences, which is what they always did. Because when you really get to the heart of the philosophy, it's not a philosophy at all. It's an excuse it's basically an excuse to have your vice. It's having your cake and eating it too, is what it is. It's an excuse for your vice with a light philosophy. It's a vice
sprinkle.
It's a vice poop pill with sugar on top. The philosophy.
It's a sugar-coated poop pill.
That's what it is. It's basically a well-dressed turd. Like, that's all it is. It's them trying to get you to accept their vice, and that's it. They will
glitter on it.
Defend abortion to their death. They will defend every kind of vice imaginable to their death, on just the verge of just the concept of, if you take away abortions, you might take away the porn. You might take away my drugs. You might take away this. You might take away that. And it's literally in the philosophy, right? It's you have to allow them to do what they want to do so I can do what I want to do. And that's it. From the safety of your own bedroom. Right. I think it's unhealthy, but I won't tell you can't do it. It may tear society down, but as long as you don't get away between me and my boobs.
Doing it.
Yeah. If you don't get between me and my boobs, I'm okay with it. So dumb. It's just like the most childish, eat now and be merry because tomorrow we die and literally go to hell.
Gosh.
It's vapid, disgusting, and so many of them are so convinced that, like, again, Vox was once libertarian. I had lots of libertarian concepts. Lots of guys are in transition. They haven't fully thought about the theory. Some things feel nice about it. It's better than conservatism most of the time, and they feel cool doing it. Those people will grow out of it 9 times out of 10. 100%. Some of them, like my uncle, will be so ingrained in it for so long.
It's gonna
Like they don't know what to do. Like they and, those will be like the really old school guys, the ones who were forward thinking back in like the 90s and 80s, right? That some of those guys are going to have a hard time changing because they fought so hard for the little bit that they had, and it's ingrained in part of who they are now. It's going to be really hard for them to let it go, and that'll be frustrating because they'll be like, my uncle is really based on so much stuff, and then you just walk into something and you're like, eh.
It's funny. He says a few things and he's just not used to me just being able to bash it down.
It's true. And he's not used to, a woman like you who
knows when to not make
it's
it go
hard
further when it doesn't need to go further.
Well,
but yet,
yeah, it's more like you're not like you're opinionated, but you're not pushing abortion and stuff. He doesn't know how to handle it.
It's true.
It's kind of.
I go on a counter
he's
that he's not used to it.
Yeah, and he's not used to the attacks we come from. Like, it's funny. Like,
that's comes from talking to you.
I'm like filtering in ideas about monarchism. So like, maybe monarchy isn't so bad. Maybe democracy sucks. And he's trying to say, but we're a republic. Just democracy with more steps. I'm sorry. That's all it is. And you're always going to lead to the democracy or oligarchy. And it's funny, in their very propaganda movie.
Oligarchy is such a funny word.
It's funny. In the very movie that's supposed to propagandize the American way, right? You know it. I know it. It's a great movie. The Patriot is actually given me the best tool when arguing with my uncle. And you know what that is? It's in the very beginning, before he's willing to fight for the revolution. And it's when everyone's debating and they want independence, and they say, why should we, deal with a dictator 10,000 miles away? And the main character stands up and goes, why should I trade a dictator 10,000 miles away for 10,000 dictators a mile away? Yeah, why should I do that? I can't help but notice that the 10,000 dictators have a lot more numbers to suppress my freedom and my liberty. They have numbers against me. They're not just one dude who can be influenced or something, right? They're an oligarchy that control each other and then control you. It's the difference between having a figure alpha head on top who pushes your nation down a path, and then having a freaking octopus, like a hive, the classic hive mind thing, but no head to kill, because the head's the devil all the way on top, and then you have all these numbers, that can all, like
Hydra.
Unfortunately, the lame concept of Hydra, right? You cut off one head, God. 2 more pop up. Unfortunately, it's true. In an oligarchy situation, you have to kill all of them at once, or they're just going to replace them with more. It's tyranny with more robustness to maintain their tyranny. Annoying. It's also funny too, is the funny thing about like the Republic democracy people is they will claim that, our method isn't perfect, but it's designed with thinking with the humanity's fallen nature in mind. Right? But then you point out, oh, okay, well, monarchy isn't perfect, but it has a lot of positives. Like, no, it has to be perfect. Think about it, right? They go against all the monarchist stuff. They go against all the no, there were some bad kings. I'm like, because all your presidents were perfect angels, right? All your politicians are wonderful dudes. And in their argument that I've heard my entire life now was like, it's designed to split up the power so no one man can what? Stop the oligarchy? Ooh. Yeah. No one man can stop your system. That's the point. No one dude can go, what you're doing is evil. I'm going to rally everyone around me to stop you. Ooh. By the way, this is a gaming stream. Did you know? Felix says, of all the government types, monarchies have been the most stable and the longest lived of the past. Exactly. And what's funny, bringing it back to my original topic about reading and books and video games, what happens whenever we have a sci-fi universe or a fantasy universe, whether it's evil or good? There's some instinct that they always wanted there to be kings again or emperors again. I'm less happy about the emperors one, but they want kings. Whether it's sci-fi or fantasy,
They have like some kind of council room.
there's always some kind of king. The good guys usually always have a king. It's funny. I was actually watching these YouTubers who were like mad about this trend, this natural trend that people like monarchy and they're intrigued by monarchy. There's some natural part of you that wants it back. Why? Because God is a monarch. I'm going to bring this back to Christianity. God is a monarch. And the way, if you read the Old Testament properly, the way he sets up his monarch is he has him, and then he has a council of high people, and he shoots his will out to them, and then has them give him ideas for how it'll be accomplished. If you don't believe me, all you have to do is look at, I don't have the verse off the top of my head, but you look up Ahab's demise, how Ahab is defeated. And there's a prophet, he's brought in, and Ahab's like, you da 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 da, and then the prophet tells him, first he gives him sass. He's like, oh, yes, Ahab, your adventure will go well and nothing will go wrong. And Ahab goes, tell me the truth or I'm going to torture you. And he goes, sure, whatever, bro. Because the prophet was like, you're not going to listen to me anyway. And then he says, fine. I saw a vision of heaven. God was there with his council and all his angels. And God told them and said, I want somebody here. I want Ahab to go to his death. How are we going to do it? Give me ideas. And one spirit says this, one spirit says that. And then one spirit comes up. One member of the council says, I will go and be a lying prophetic spirit in the prophets of Ahab's court and tell him that he will have victory. And God says, good, that will work. I know Ahab. You go and go do that. What is this? God's court. God's court, the way it is set up and described in the Bible, is an alpha figurehead with a council of advisors. And he leads people towards his will and then has them be useful towards his will and different ideas, come up with the best concept forward, and then he picks the best one and says, go do it. The ideal method. It's not always going to work right because you can't always get a good alpha, as we see in King David's case. Even when you have a good alpha, they often fail. Right? Even the ideal has problems, baby. But the ideal situation is you have the alpha at the top of the hierarchy. You have his bravos, his council of bravos, his council of deltas under that. And the alpha sets forth the course, and everyone comes up with the ideas to make it possible. The alpha then delegates who does what, and everyone goes towards their tasks. That's the ideal situation, highlighted in God's court himself. You can actually see it all the way back in Genesis, right? Genesis 1, the part where he's making mankind, and he says, let us make mankind in our own image, Who is he talking to? He's talking to his council. He's setting up his kingdom on earth. That's what the Garden of Eden, which was separate than the rest of creation, remember, right? Was his headquarters, was his spot where he walked on earth, where the kingdom of heaven was in the physical, right? And he walked amongst them, and he was there, and it was a central part of his power. And one of his advisor types, the devil, rebels. Now, there's some interesting Christian traditions that say that he was a throne guardian. So one of those guys with multiple heads and wings and stuff. Interesting that he would then take on the form of a snake, right? So it's not too weird and out of the question that he could shapeshift. And it also wouldn't be too weird that Eve wouldn't be confused by a talking serpent if all these spirits and entities can take on different shapes and forms in the kingdom of heaven. So a talking snake, oh, hey, you're one of God's dudes. Also would explain why she was willing to listen to him, because she's like, oh, you're a throne guardian. You know your shit. You must know. And he probably did know a lot. He was also a lying little fuck.
Like a camel.
Yeah. Right?
He was good at one thing. He only knew one thing.
Yeah. And isn't it interesting, right? That.
Why did Eve have her warning lights?
Well, there's actually a good chance, too, that the devil had talked to her before. That this wasn't the first time he'd had this conversation. There's a very good chance that the devil, as Lucifer, had talked to them and made them trust him long before he'd made them fall. We don't have the whole story.
That's true.
We don't know how long they were in the garden. For all we know, it was thousands of years they were in the garden. And that's a long time, whether it was weeks or thousands of years, for the devil to be a whisper in their ear.
I have not thought about that.
Yeah. It's very interesting how that all, the timeline is not clear in the Bible.
Reading the Bible makes it sound like oh, this happened.
You have
no timeline.
Yeah, the Churchians do that. And then later on, you'll have stories about the rebellion in heaven, and it's kind of iffy on when and how it all went down. We're not clear if the devil had already rebelled by the time he was whispering in their ears, or if he was trying to hide his rebellion, and then the revelation of him tricking them was when he showed his hand to God. And again, Genesis makes it pretty clear.
And when did the 1/3 happen?
Yeah, when did the 1/3 of angels fall?
Did it happen before Eve?
Yeah, and then you have another rebellion with the sons of God mating with, the whole Nephilim situation.
Well, the Nephilim stuff, because some of it was hinted before he made man.
Maybe. If you're talking,
I have to read it back.
You're also catching me when I'm really tired and I can't remember where verses are and stuff. I couldn't remember the Comanches, so I want to be really careful.
Yeah. Okay.
But if you're talking about the Book of Enoch, by the way, guys,
I was not talking about. I was talking about the layout of the days of creation. And there's this. I'll have to read it and show it to you.
You've also listened to a lot of my stuff, so there could be things mixed up.
I will show you.
Good. Now, hey guys, did you know this was a gaming stream? But hey, you can always make games about weird stuff. It's always fun. I mean, for research and game purposes, baby. And by the way, I still stick to the concept that the best games have their gameplay intertwined with their story and their background stuff, and it both plays off of each other, making cool gameplay based off of the story and the setting, while you make a setting that's based off of the gameplay. And it's the chicken before the egg before the chicken. The answer is yes. They're both there at the same time.
Because of the chicken.
Sure. I like the eggs. Thank you, dog, for shaking the table. What would I do without that?
Earthquake.
Wow, we're still going. Oh, man. It's fun to keep going sometimes, though. I admit it.
You wonder how we could stay up to 2 a.m. talking about cosmology.
It's true. I kept my wife up talking about cosmology. If you don't know, that's a fancy word for like the setup of the heavens, in particular.
It was really interesting because
my concepts for my fantasy novels I'm writing, and space opera,
the stuff I learned at school about like planets and how they rotate along with the Earth's pattern, and then the change of seasons. I always thought it was just chaos. It sounded chaotic. I could not understand it. And my dad's like, "This is like the easiest thing in school to ever learn."
Well, I don't know about that.
And I'm like, "How? But how?" Like I had so many other questions that nobody could answer.
It's because they don't.
It was so frustrating. It's like, so it has to lean this way, while the moon's like this way at this particular, and then the planets line up and.
Hi. I love you too. I could keep you up to 2 a.m. talking about cosmology again if you want. No, but that would be spoilers. No one wants to have spoilers. Well, more to the point, like
they always would use the object, right? And then they'll do it, and I'm like, even now, just doing it, I'm just confused with the lights and the shadows and stuff. And then the moon apparently has.
Wait, the moon! Sorry, if you don't know what we're doing, you need to play Marvel Rivals because Moon Knight will shout.
Because the moon has like a cool light, right? And then I think about photography where you have the saturations of the warmth and the.
I need to do measurements myself, but yeah, I've seen people measure the moon. And the light's colder, like it's colder in the moonlight. And I need to do that myself to know it's real. But it's tantalizing to see them measure it and actually it be colder in the moonlight. All I see is the sponge monkeys and the Quizno ads. Exactly. But yes, how can the light from the moon be cold if it's just a reflection of the heat from the sun? It should be warmer. So I need to make
sure. If it gives off its own light, then
we're confused.
How does that happen?
Well, and again, if the light from the moon is cold, like these people are claiming, and I need to measure to be sure, then it is not a reflection of the sun because it should still be warm as a reflection. It should be less warm, but it should still be warm. But if it's cold, then it's giving off its own unique light. And how can light be cold in and of itself if it's just energy?
But again, it all sounds chaotic to me.
And what my wife's bringing up is what I've talked about is the whole space concept is chaos in and of itself. It's controlled chaos, but in reality, if it's the evolutionist version of it, it's not controlled. And things can die. Asteroids will blow you up. And that's the view that NASA and all of them wants to give you is this concept.
The double forked.
Yeah, the forked NASA and all that. The devil's tongue, the snake tongue in their logo.
Apparently, one of my grandfathers worked for NASA. And after his stroke, he started saying that he doesn't believe that we actually went to the moon.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And then my aunt was like, it's just a stroke talk. I'm like, no, I think he's getting somewhere. This is something else.
It's his inhibitions. Like, I'm sorry, when you get into the moon stuff, either we didn't go to the moon, or literally there's alien slave sex colonies on Mars. Like, you may think I'm being hyperbolic, but I'm not. It's that insane. Like, either aliens helped us and we're doing some weird hinky stuff on the moon, or we didn't go. I know it sounds crazy, but when you really get into the detailed nonsense of it, you have two conspiracies. And I know that sounds binary, but it's not as binary as you think. And when you really look at the weirdness around the moon landing and all those
the math doesn't add up too.
Well,
if you
yes,
don't forget about the math. Yeah,
like we're talking. Just take this for example. That tiny antenna on top of the Apollo was supposed to give you a live footage from the farthest distance man has ever had.
Have you seen our Wi-Fi lately?
Modern antennas can't do that. Okay? But that antenna was supposed to give you a live broadcast. So right off the bat.
Even back then?
Yeah.
With their equipment?
Yeah. Like right off the bat, we have to say, okay, they lied. It wasn't live. and it was in fact a recording that they brought back, right? If you're going to still say they went to the moon, or you're going to say that they had alien technology that they weren't sharing. Okay. So you go back to, oh, they just didn't go, or B, they had to, or B,
They borrowed things from the Smithsonian.
or it was basically for it to work, and that's just one aspect of this, okay? For it to work, they lied. They lied about something. Whether they went or they didn't go, they're lying, and they're lying a lot, and not just for security reasons. And I'm strongly in the camp of they didn't go just because. Okay, trust me, I have stories. Like, I went down the rabbit hole of what everything leads to if we went to the moon. Okay, and trust me, I can create some wild space opera over that, and I even have those stories and some notes on them. I might even go down that route one day in a side fantasy story, but I lean towards it's actually simpler and makes more sense that we just didn't go. And this takes a lot of different things into consideration. For example, the moon rocks, and then they did testing on them, and they were petrified wood. Well, that either means that
They got it from
that there was once plant life on the moon, which really go, what? How is that possible? What are we talking about here? And then you get down the alien conspiracy route of like literally aliens enslaving people on Mars to
for the cocaine factories. What?
a lot of things.
Hallucinations are real.
Sex slaves and weird
no.
human trafficking, and we're talking human sacrifice to dark gods. Like, yeah, the alien stuff goes down that route. It's crazy. No matter where you go, it goes down that route. And that's why I'm strongly in the camp that aliens are just demons in disguise at this point. Dark gods and Nephilim and all that stuff, baby. We could argue that they're alien in the fact that they're not from around here. I'll give you that. But as many of
this is why immigration's bad.
yeah. Don't immigrate those aliens from another dimension. They're probably just from hell. No, I'm even weirder. I think hell's underneath our feet. Literally. Not an alternate dimension, actual physical place. I get that crazy. I know it's crazy, and nobody likes to think that way anymore, but let's just say the Bible...
Don't fall into a volcano.
Let's just say the Bible makes everything much more physical than people realize. We have this concept in our heads that dimensions and all that, and heaven's a dimension and hell's a dimension, but no. The actual people who wrote this stuff and got those concepts and got it from Hades and all that actually thought
Infernals, the 7 layers of hell.
Yeah. Well, no, again, you were actually getting into like alternate dimension talk with that.
Oh, really? Oh.
With that. Purgatory and all that, and Dante's Inferno.
Oh, no.
But the ancients who wrote these books, the old people, their concepts were much more physical. Gods were on the mountains. Hades was underneath your feet. Stairway to heaven, right? The stairway to heaven that Jacob witnessed. Heaven being a physical place that the angels walk to. Interestingly enough, we have this concept in Ezekiel, Daniel, excuse me. I'm getting my prophets mixed up. Daniel, where Daniel's praying, and then an angel appears to him. And the angel informs him that he actually started coming down to him from heaven when he started praying and fasting 20 days ago. But he was waylaid by the prince, which is a spiritual prince of darkness of Persia, who waylaid him and fought him for 20 days until the prince of Israel, the archangel Michael, right, the watcher Michael, comes and intervenes. And now I have to give you this message and go back and help Michael in the fight. Like, that guy was this prince of Persia was so powerful that it took 2 archangels basically to fight him. and he was worried that Michael wasn't going to win the fight. He had to go back and help. That's crazy, right? But you have this concept of physically being blocked in the spiritual world. It takes time to get from heaven to earth. It's not a pop dimension travel, though I think dimensions do exist. I think a lot heaven and hell is much more in the Bible sense, physical places. I know our modern minds are trained against it. And I may very well could be wrong about it. Because again, I do think dimension travel and dimensions do exist. I just think, though the spirit world, it's so fascinating. There's so much there. And as Aristotle said, the more I learn, the more I realize I don't know. And the world gets crazier and stranger the more I learn about it. And the more I go down the rabbit holes and I throw my hands up and go, what? I don't know.
That's crazy.
It's weirder.
Like all the stuff that the churchians do and
Yeah.
say about the Bible, they're literally like the libertarians in a way.
Well, I would argue, yeah.
If you think about it, that's what they.
Legalistic libertarians. It's hard. But I understand what you're trying to say. I get the hint.
What I'm trying to say about when they try and tell you when they're trying to tell you what they think,
Okay, so
what a churchians tell you about the Bible.
Like the libertarian,
yeah,
they have a concept that they don't want to give up.
Yeah.
And so they will defend the other concept to the death so that their spiritual view does not get destroyed. But in that sense, they're not libertarians.
Yeah.
They're legalistic, wife. You should remember that.
Okay.
So they're not libertarian.
Okay.
But like the libertarian, they will defend a concept to the death.
Okay.
Just to defend their view of the world.
Legalistic.
Hi. We finally lost everybody. I think it's time to get off.
Holy cow, that was 3 hours straight.
That's crazy.
We
almost pulled a Big Bear. We were kind of getting Big Bear concepted at the end there.
Yeah, and I'm getting the L words mixed up.
Yeah. It's funny talking on these streams. I know a lot of people will like blanch at the idea that the Bible is literally true on some things we all think is figurative. Like my uncle thinks that the apocalypse has already happened and it was just physical armies and it was just apocalyptic. Like I can't disagree with him that there's been apocalyptic prophecies that turned out to just be physical armies and whatnot. But
like the Aztec in Spanish.
Yeah. But a lot of those also had apocalyptic stuff happen in them. It wasn't always just physical armies.
Like it's funny when you read verses in the Bible about the end times, how everybody will know about it.
Yeah.
Not just, did it really happen? Blah, blah.
But I need to point out my uncle is very smart and his arguments, I have to look into them and make sure I understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I had to back off because I'm like, I don't know as much as what we're doing.
Even though in the Bible,
but, but the Bible is very clear as my Bible, as my wife's reminded me, that everyone's going to know. It's not going to be something that the Chinese aren't going to hear about because they're on the other side of the world. Like everyone's going to know.
Everyone's going to be able to see it from,
Yeah, and
then in that case, if you come from that sense, then why
are we talking about this in a gaming stream?
Space opera.
World building. All right. This has been fun.
I am so tired.
I really want.
I
really am going to try to make Friday our gaming stream night again. I don't know why we keep doing it on Saturday, and it keeps getting in the way of us doing the Grizzly files, which is grossly underdone now and way late. And I don't have an excuse anymore. And I don't know what's happening.
Not just.
Then
we get the Sunday school lessons.
The Sunday school lessons are also in that. Well, the only thing we've been getting is like a single stream a week. And this topic we've been on we're almost like smashing our streams together. That should have been a topic for our Sunday school lessons. That's why the streams are getting longer. Anyway, if you like what we're talking about, you should check out our Sunday school lessons, the
You
Warriors
should have
Path.
just called us the mumble jumble string.
To every string stream. That I didn't have time for everything I wanted to do. So here's an everything stream. Harry Pits. So
I shared mine.
in the future, I want Fridays to be our Friday streams again. Hopefully 9:30ish. Saturdays to be the Grizzly Files. Sundays to be our next lesson, and then Mondays to be the stream going over the lessons. We will hopefully get back to that. And when we do, then we might add something fun like a gaming stream where we actually play video games while we stream.
That's when I get my computer.
And better internet. I wonder if they'll be open tomorrow. Probably not. But also,
Who?
the internet people we need to get for better internet. They're running the
The
deal.
local stuff.
Yeah,
It's a Sunday, not a lot of places.
that's why I'm saying it's a local joint. But sometimes internet places are open, so I should at least look into it.
Local joint.
Local joint. Don't trust the libertarian joint. All right, we're getting off. Like,
Lip
subscribe,
joints.
share.
Lip joints. Scott,
I refuse to turn into a Big Bear 3-hour stream man. I will not. You can't make me do it. You can't. Okay, you could, but you can't. I would have quit.
What do you think about tanks? The Abram tanks.
They suck, and I don't like them.
Tigers.
I like the Tigers, even though everyone thinks they suck. All right. Now that I've angered every World War II tank guy in existence, I will see you guys later.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. I'm losing my voice.